been 9 days now since that playoff elimination in Baltimore. It's been long enough that an entire week has gone by, and even the Ravens are out of the playoffs now. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Mike Tomlin, at his season-ending press conference, had this to say: certainly, there's change that comes with this time of year. Certainly, there's change that comes when you don't have the desired outcome. And so those are just the realities of the business. Tomlin also had this to say: I would imagine there's going to be some things that change around here on a lot of levels, but that's just this game, and so I understand that. I'm open to that. Tomlin also said, I think change in coaching staffs are a component of our business. I certainly don't think all of our coaches are under contract, and so change is a component of it, and I acknowledge it. But we're at the very early stages of making those types of decisions and discussions. So yeah, change. We've heard that from him before. Insanity would be to continue doing the same things. He said all of these things and so much more as it reflects just the concept of change. For anyone who isn't familiar with this sort of thing when it comes to professional sports in general, it is seen as a common courtesy that if you're not going to keep somebody who's not under contract, or, if you're just firing them anyway, you do it as quickly as possible. You do it as close to your own team's end of season as possible. You don't wait. You don't have meetings. You don't go back and forth about it. You don't hem and haw. You just get rid of them. You're doing them a favor because then they can be out on the market that much longer, hoping that one of the other 31 franchises will pick them up. Now, hold up your right hand. Take a look at it. Close all of your fingers. Now put your thumb across there too. That's how many changes have been made. That's how many changes have been made at any level of the organization when it comes to personnel. Now, players, that's a different category. Players, it really doesn't matter when you cut them loose because they're not instantly free agents. They can't be free agents until the NFL's free agency opens. But coaches, especially all the way up to coordinators, those are moves that either happen right away or they don't happen. Now, I'm not saying that the Steelers aren't going to make any. I'm saying that it's already getting dark outside, and I'm saying that it's at least plausible at this stage that they aren't going to do much, if anything. Was there any more obvious candidate besides Tomlin himself to be a goner from this staff? And by obvious, I don't mean predicting that it would have happened. I mean obvious as in, wow, he really had it coming. The one that comes to mind for me is Terrell Austin. I don't say that in any mean way. I don't wish for him to lose his job out of some sort of, whatever, personal spite or whatever. He's a really, really good guy. But I'd like to think we can all agree that what happened defensively, especially when related to the amount of star power and, for that matter, cap space that was committed to that defense, no, that did not go well. That is not something you would want on your coaching resume. That I had TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, Patrick Queen, all these other guys playing for me, and I couldn't keep the other team to less than 30 points, and I got steamrollered in the playoffs for 299 yards on the ground. That's not one that you're carrying to one of those other 31 franchises, but he's still here. And as long as he's still here, the prospect of Tomlin being the de facto defensive coordinator remains cast in stone. There's no chance anything will change if that element of personnel doesn't change. Even if Art Rooney were to say to Tomlin, hey, Hands off the defense here. Just be the head coach. No chance. You'll see the same thing. You'll see the same thing. Arthur Smith's been doing interviews for NFL head coaching vacancies. Neither of those has borne fruit. So it would be reasonably assumed that he'll be back as the offensive coordinator. So what are you changing? What are you changing? In this dialogue with Tomlin last week, the first time the subject of change came up, of things that the Steelers need to change, he spoke one of those lines that I just read to you and immediately turned to the Steelers having too many issues with injuries, specifically soft tissue injuries. Now, the oldest running gag in the book when somebody stays in a position of importance, and again, this is any sport, and they say they're going to make change, but they don't make change, is that they're going to fire somebody from the strength and conditioning staff. The Pirates just did this themselves this same winter. Kept everybody on board, got rid of the strength and conditioning guy. As any of the people in that specific line of work have told me over the years, they are the first to get scapegoated when things go wrong. Someone will point to somebody holding a hammy and say, that's it. That's what caused this. Then, like the Pirates just did, they'll fire a couple of other people so that there are press releases with firings on them. And again, nothing will change. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll change today, but I'll tell you what, if it doesn't begin to take shape this week, you can forget about it. You can forget about it. They'll get exactly what they wanted. Tomlin will get exactly what he wanted. And you'll get the same season all over again in 2025. When we come back, J1Q. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Kevin, who says, DK, I know a lot of people see Mike Tomlin as a surefire Hall of Fame coach, but with each year of failure, he only gets further and further away from a shrinking window of early success. If he keeps this up, regardless which team is employing him for another decade or so, is his resume endangering his Hall candidacy? 20 years of mediocrity after 5 to 6 great years at the beginning could look bad to voters who might start to forget how good the Steelers were back in 2008. I don't invest a whole lot of time, in all honesty, Kevin, in wondering who's going to be in the Hall and who isn't, especially in football, because the careers, this is about players now, are so short that something significant can change your opinion, even if it's just in the scope of a single season. And I'll give you what I hope would be a compelling example right now in the form of Cam Hayward. I've kind of been on the figurative fence as it relates to Cam for years, mostly because, well, as Cam would be the first to point out, he's playing a position that doesn't get appreciated enough because he's in a 3-4 defense. Is he a defensive tackle? Is he a defensive end? What sort of numbers should be expected from him? Is it just about longevity? Should it be more about splash? But this season, he was just outrageously good. And to have that happen at this age, to be all this in his mid-30s coming off a major surgery to the groin, I feel like he really elevated. And the fact that it comes late, which goes a little bit to your point about Tomlin, what would be the last thing that you see, I think helps Cam. So I can say something now about Tomlin's Hall candidacy, and he can proceed to have just one great bookend year, like you said, whether it's in Pittsburgh or elsewhere, and he's in, meaning universally in everybody's minds. But I'll take you inside that room because at DK Pittsburgh Sports, we've been represented in that room where the Hall voting is done, and it's done in person at the Super Bowl. Everybody's sitting there in a big room. Cases are being made face to face. And the way those cases get made, by and large, is through data. It's through lists of achievements. It's where does so-and-so rank in this category or that category. And the fact, and I do mean fact, is that Tomlin has been around a long time and run up a lot of scores on a lot of lists. He started young, so he's on a lot of those most wins by the age of ... kind of lists. He's on a lot of those most wins period kind of lists because not that many people last this long as an NFL head coach. He's made the playoffs. He's been at least average in regular seasons, and while neither I nor anyone in the city of Pittsburgh could care less about the stupid no losing seasons thing, that might carry some weight with people who don't live in Pittsburgh. I have no idea, by the way, why this is an issue only outside of the city, but it's clear to me that it is. The only people who ever bring it up, other than me, obviously, just now, must be getting like all of their information from somewhere other than here. But that said, those people in that room will probably be aware of it and will probably say, wow, that's just remarkable consistency. Or they'll remember more than one occasion where they thought, kind of like this year, the Steelers were going to suck and they were picked to finish last in the division and they ended up with 10 wins. And they'll think, gee whiz, wow, he really got a lot out of that group. My point is, he's going to make it regardless. And if he ends up with 10 more mediocre seasons, and if he ends up with 10 more first-round playoff exits, that's just more numbers onto the games coached, the games won. It'll only strengthen his case. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Or yes, I should say he's going to be one. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. Don't forget, we have a double shot of Steelers coming your way this afternoon, and we'll be back with another one of these tomorrow morning.